Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, good morning and welcome to it, the Michael Dukes Show, Wednesday edition, Hump Day, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator, and live around the world at michaeldukeshow.com on the internet, where we have the audio-only live stream going right now, as well as, of course, links to our social media sites where we simulcast the radio show every morning on Facebook and YouTube, and links to the podcast, which are available wherever you find good podcasts, CastBox, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and, of course, Spotify. So, good morning and welcome to the program. Just another day of winter. I mean, just I looked outside this morning as as I was contemplating what we were doing here today on the program, and I just saw the big white fluffy flakes coming down. And if I wasn't such a manly man, I would have had a tear in my eye, because this is the winter that will never end. Oh my goodness. Well, there is a good news coming, though. I guess at least for South Central. Winter weather advisory still going on for other parts of the state. Susitna Valley this morning, I know there was one still in effect for today up in Fairbanks. They're supposed to get 3 to 6 inches in snow for the interior. I mean, This is the whole thing, man. But the below normal temperatures are supposed to, they're supposed to finally abate down here in the South Central area, Anchorage, Matsu, etc. And we're going to see daytime highs returning up into the 40s for this weekend and next week. Which, please, hallelujah! I mean, what a I'm ready. I'm ready for winter to be over. It's April. Come on. Just waiting for it. Anyway, Hatcher Pass, Whittier, all the passes are seeing lots of heavy snow, heavy wet snow, wind chills, and going to get some sunshine with some wind chills out on the West Coast and Nome and those areas. Kenai Peninsula is going to see some light snow a little bit today on the west side, and then clearing. Prince William Sound is going to improve by tomorrow. The other side is what they're saying. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. But, I don't know who's out there doing the snow dance. I'm looking at you, Bill. But stop. Just stop. All right? We're ready to get it done. Currently 33 degrees and snowing, which is going to make for a great drive in this morning. All right. Well, what's on the agenda for today? Well, we got some stories to talk about. A few different ones, not anything that, not anything that you haven't heard. Has not been a lot of movement the last couple of days. In the legislature, with the exception of one bill, which we're going to talk about here, of course, at length. I promised to talk about it yesterday. Well, I didn't promise, but I said I was going to talk about it this morning because I got a little worked up yesterday about it. And then I had a Chris Story moment and I felt, it's so nice not to be agitated by it. But it is an important bill and it's something we need to talk about. So if the price for that is a little bit of agitation on my end, then I guess I'll just have to deal with it. We're going to be talking about private property rights. We're going to talk about this new blight bill that's coming in. And where does it go from here? And we'll talk about that and more. So that's going to be hour one this morning on the program. And then in hour two, I did confirm it. State Senator Mike Shower will be joining us, and he and I will chit-chat about all the stuff that's going on in the legislature and his take on it, and it's just going to be a conversation. I have no idea what we're going to talk about this morning, but we'll see. We'll see what he says, and we'll go on from there. So there you go. All right. So that's the whole show for today. Tomorrow, I thought I had some stuff lined up, but it hasn't gelled quite yet. So there is no, so I got nothing as of right this moment. It could be just 2 hours of you and me talking on the phone tomorrow. I don't know, which would be fine. I mean, I would be fine with that, but we may have some guests tomorrow. And then on Friday, we are working on Jacob Sullum from Reason Magazine, who's been doing a lot of writing about the Second Amendment and more. Also a good article, by the way, from Hand-Waving Freakoutery over on Substack that just came out yesterday. I think it just came out. I got the notification yesterday and I read the story. And it is a fascinating look at the left's lament that there's just no way to fight the war on guns anymore. And he points out that it's mainly their fault, which I think is an interesting take on that. So we'll pick that up on Friday as well and have some discussions on that. And of course, gun Q&A and Willy Waffle and all that stuff. So that's the rest of the week. All right. So let's get started. Now I did open up the phone lines. Only because I wasn't sure how wound up I want to get about this. Cause I'll be honest with you, this is a topic that triggers me. If you want to use I'm triggered, that really, really, agitates me. And so it's something that I can get a little bit wound up about. I don't necessarily want to get wound up about it because then my blood pressure is elevated for the rest of the day and everything else. So I did bring the phone lines up and online. And so if you guys want to interrupt my screed about private property rights and everything else, I will allow you to do that. 907-433-3150 is the phone number. 907-433-3150. And that is the phone lines. They're open right now. So if you want to call in, I will allow that this morning for any topic, or if you want to, give us your thoughts on private property rights, et cetera, that feel free to do so. Today's program, of course, being brought to you by your friends over there at Satellite West. You can find them at satellitewest.com. I was contacted yesterday by a listener, and they wanted to know where in Fairbanks they could go to get, some of the things that we've talked about, the satellite telephones and the bivvy sticks and all that stuff. And it's Arctic Fire and Safety in Fairbanks, and it's the Marine store down on the Spit in Homer, and it's just a bunch of different places. And I don't remember them all right off the top of my head right now, but I do know that if you go to satellitewest.com, there's a full list of local dealers there. So for no matter where you are in the state, you should be able to find a local dealer near you. You just got to go to satellitewest.com. And that's pretty much what I told them. So there you go. Thank you to Satellite West for sponsoring the program today. And I look forward to hearing from more of you about going over to the local dealers and working with them. It's some good stuff. Okay. Well, you asked for it, you got it. I'm kind of passionate about the idea that private property rights are kind of one of the things that make America America. That's what people were really when you saw people come from across the waters to America, and they were looking to carve out their their manifest destiny, and especially on the westward expansion as they moved across the plains and started to populate and fill up the good old US of A, as it would become known. The one fundamental thing that they were looking for was the right to own property. And that was a right that heretofore had been reserved for, royalty, nobility, the landed gentry, the upper classes who had political connections and everything else. Otherwise these folks were just tenants. I mean, they were just essentially land slaves for the upper classes. And so when I think about America and the movement west, and you can see pretty clearly my Louis L'Amour upbringing when I start talking about some of this stuff, because he goes into that in many, many ways, talking about, it's the land that produces, and it was a land that they were looking for, and it was a land where somebody can carve out their own destiny on things and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of important to me. And so when I served on the Borough Assembly in Fairbanks, I made it pretty clear that this was a hot button issue for me, and I got appointed to some different committees and worked on some bills with people like Natalie Howard and others who were up there with a grandfather rights bill, where we were protecting the rights of property owners from any new restrictions or things on their property that would require them to change the way that they've done business. Now, I'm not talking about putting on people creating a nuclear waste dump at their house or something like that would poison the land, the air, the water, those kind of things. Those kind of things definitely have to be taken care of. I mean, again, the whole idea of libertarianism is basically do what you want, leave other people alone, just don't hurt other people. So, your rights are sacrosanct to you as long as they don't infringe on somebody else's rights. If you're dropping, 500 gallons of benzene into the water table and it's seeking into the water table and hurting your neighbors, that's a problem, right? I mean, because that definitely is not, you got to take care of that. But if you want to take the beds of old pickup trucks and turn them into flower planters, or whatever, and that's none of their business. They don't like it, they can put up a fence. It's not any of their business, as long as you're not, again, health and welfare and safety and those kind of things of, you're not polluting their property with chemicals or things. But other than that, I think people should be free to do on their property what they want. If they just want to put a new blue tarp over their roof every year because they can't afford to fix their roof, and then one day maybe they will, so be it. It doesn't, that's, was it the way that I would do it? No, but this is their right to do so. And so now we're getting into the crux of this matter with a new bill that's being passed in the Senate, and it's SB 77. And it was passed yesterday. The Alaska Senate, it was passed and voted on. And I want to discuss it because, to me, and special thanks, by the way, to Andrew Kitchenman over at the Alaska Beacon, because he as much as I dislike some of the politics that I see in the writing at the Alaska Beacon, they at least are more fair and even-handed, and mention, and make a point of mentioning certain things in their reporting. And I guess we'll get into that here in a minute, and we'll take a look at it and discuss it, because I'm up against the break, so I gotta go. See, it's going to be easy for me to get a little over-eager to talk about this. But anyway, we'll see what goes on. Again, the phone lines are open if you want to sound off. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's go and see what's going on. The Sullivan Arena is not going to remain a homeless shelter. They vote to shut it down on April 30th last night. They're going to shut down. Yeah, that's the thing. They made a vote last night in the Anchorage Assembly to shut down the shelter, and so they're going to turn all those people out onto the street on May the 1st. 500 homeless people out there into the thing. So that should be interesting. It should be interesting. Bill said he did stop when I asked him to stop doing the snow dance. He said he did. I'm not sure. We may need video proof of that if somebody lives near Bill and wants to go make sure that he's not doing the dance in secret so that we keep getting all this snow. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Debbie, I don't know why you didn't have a cup of coffee in your hand when you asked that question, because there is never a morning that you can't have coffee. Never too early to have coffee at this point. Good morning. I wish you would do something about this insane weather. It's raining here. I wish I had that kind of power. Prepare for flooding when this warms up, says Tawny. Appears to be 6 inches overnight and still snowing. Yeah, that's that bad. Good. Harold being his bright and cheery self. Looks like the DOJ got handed another loss regarding cannabis in the Second Amendment. I saw that story yesterday, and yes, I think we'll probably be talking about that on Firearms Friday. I think that is a fantastic news. A second circuit court has shot down their restrictions on the Second Amendment and the cannabis consumption thing. Willow, Trapper Creek, Houston, Talkeetna schools closed. How much snow did you get up that way? Oof. Yeah, in the Susitna, Talkeetna area, there's a winter weather advisory going on right now for big snow. Big snow. Which is a bummer. I've got to drive up to Fairbanks next week. I'm hoping that we get some warm weather, so it'll mostly, I don't want to have to drive through a bunch of snow. I'm tired of that. The winter that never ends. So I don't know why this keeps shifting, but it is what it is. There we go. Only two certainties in life. I'm going to get coffee and I'm going to drink that coffee. Well, that's true. That's, just do it. You don't have to wait for my permission. Imagine that 500 homeless kicked out into the cold in Fairview and Midtown. I know. I can't imagine what it's going to be like. I can imagine what it's going to be like. I guess it will not be pretty. As they're still trying to deal and figure out how to deal with all this stuff, but it's not going to be a good thing. Not much snow in Fairbanks currently, says Gordon. Well, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, I know you guys have been getting inundated with snow. So hopefully you can relax a little bit. Okay. Well, we're about 20 seconds out, and I'm ready to get back on my high horse, start charging around here and making a mess. You ready? Let's get it going on. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Subscribe, ring the bell. Just like that. That's a hell of a segue, isn't it? We're going to continue, and we'll kick things off here. Again, do all the YouTubey and Facebooky stuff. Let's I changed my timers a little bit, so my timing's a little bit off here. I was throwing myself off with that. I forgot that I moved my timers around so that I wouldn't get the second ding on the air, if you know what I mean. Here we go. Let's do it. All right. Welcome back to the old radio program. Good morning. Let's dive into some details here, shall we? On SB 77, put forward by none other than Run Forest Run Dunbar. His new bill, SB 77, originally reported on by Must Read Alaska here a couple days ago. Her headline read, "War on the Poor. If government decides your property is a blight, it could levy a huge tax under the Dunbar bill." And it talks specifically about Americans for Tax Reform, who came out strongly against the bill, Senate Bill 77, and gave some good reasoning why. It has been fast-tracked through the Senate, and maybe heard in the House and Regional Affairs Committee as early as this week, is something that she said. The ADN has written an article about it as well, where it quotes specifically from Bill Popp and Mike Robbins and all these people who are in these quasi-governmental organizations, talking about how it's going to stimulate economic housing development around the state and do other things, because there's two parts to this bill. I guess I should be a little more clear. And I'm not necessarily opposed to the first part of the bill. It's the second part of the bill that really bothers me at this point. So the Senate voted yesterday 13-6 to pass that bill that would apply, according to Andrew Kitchenman over at the Alaska Beacon, that would apply both a carrot and a stick for local governments to encourage the construction and maintenance of building developments. Now, part one of SB 77, again, the one that I'm not necessarily opposed to, I'd like to have some deeper conversations about it, but would allow municipalities to exempt the owners of newly developed or redeveloped commercial properties from paying property taxes. Currently, under state law, they can only exempt a portion of those taxes. If somebody builds a brand new apartment building, let's say in Anchorage, at this time, they can only get a partial exemption. There we go. I'm getting old. I'm forgetting words. What's my name again? The partial exemption from their property taxes as an incentive to build these properties. I mean, this is done all over the place. Quite honestly, I think here's the thing. Property taxes are property taxes on private residential property. I guess I should be a little clearer on that. Property taxes on private residential property are immoral. That's my position. Change my mind. Property taxes on commercial properties, on properties that you utilize and you turn a profit with and you go out there and the thing. But if you just have a piece of property that's not being used, you have a piece of property that you're using for, your primary residence or your residential things or things like that, even recreation, properties that don't generate income should not be taxed. Because because otherwise, I mean, technically, you can never really, truly, outright own your property. I'm sidebarring here. This is a big sidebar. You can never it doesn't matter, for, I'm just thinking about a piece of property that my grandparents purchased, built a recreational cabin on, have owned for 60 years, 70 years, and then at their passing passed on to my parents. And I look at the for this, the property has been owned free and clear for decades. And yet the amount of money that the borough in Fairbanks continues to assess on this piece of property it could, I certainly would be hard pressed to continue to afford to pay for it year after year, every year. For the simple pleasure of owning that property, you have to beg the government's permission to remain. That doesn't sound like private property to me. You can go back and you can look at the original intent of when they talked about property taxes and things like that in the, amongst the framers and the foundations of the country. The taxes that they talked about, and this wasn't until years after the actual formation of the country, but they talked about, working lands. They talked about basically land that turned a profit. So if you farmed a piece of land, then you could be taxed on the production of that piece of land. I'm still not happy about it, but it's not as immoral as taxing the house that you live in. Or you've got a piece of land that lays fallow. Many farmers have to leave, they have to rotate fields, right? One field is fallow and is sitting while the other ones are being worked. And to have to pay property taxes on that piece of property that generates no income other than, the only reason to do this is to feed a hungry, greedy government. It's inevitable, isn't it? It's inevitable sometimes. This always comes back to the greed, and the entitlement is astounding to me.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me. I just don't fathom it.
I know, that's the problem, right? But this is what's happened. It's become commonplace. And now I've said this to a few people and they just look at me and they go, well, then how would we get all our services and how would the government survive? I don't know. And I don't care. Those are really two answers there. The bottom line is government doing what it's supposed to be doing, or is it doing more? We continue to see that it becomes a revenue game. All right, I didn't want to get off on that, but get on that tangent, but I'm here now. I need to kind of drag myself back to this bill. But again, property taxes on residential or non-commercial, however you want to look at it. The easiest way to look at it is, does that piece of property produce, income every year? I'm not talking about when you sell it, because land appreciates, and that's understanding, because in that case, every piece of land could make you money in the long run. I'm talking about, does that piece of property, the use of that property, produce income every year? That's really what they intended for property taxes. That's the real deal there. Anyway, back to the bill. Sorry, sidebar. As you can tell, the first part of the bill would allow the municipalities to not exempt a portion of it, but to exempt all of it, which is how they've tried to incentivize the building of new housing units in many communities. Now, Anchorage has got a serious housing problem right now. It's a serious shortage. Houses are flying around down there. Like, if you put your house on the market, you should be able to sell it in like 4 or 5 days, and usually for more than the asking price, because there's a bidding war going on. They need more housing. Hopefully that would spur more development. If you put up housing complexes or apartments or whatever, and then exempted them from the owners from paying property taxes for, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, that would become more attractive for many of them to do that. So again, I'm not necessarily opposed. I mean, first of all, anything that reduces a tax burden on anybody is okay in my book. Now, the argument there is, well, if they don't tax those guys, they'll have to tax everybody else. It's not a perfect world at this point. But the part that really bugs me is the second component of this, which would allow municipalities to increase the property taxes of owners of properties who have become blighted. They could increase those taxes by as much as 50%. So if your annual property tax bill is $2,000, you would have to pay an additional $1,000 on top of that as a tax penalty for having a blighted property. The problem here is that the term blighted and what that definition is not included in the language of this bill. In turn, Dunbar basically said they're going to leave it up to the municipalities to implement a blight tax and to determine what their definition of blighted is. That's very, very concerning, because Dunbar just left an assembly that is, let's just say there's some hostility going on there between the assembly and certain portions of not only the administration, but of the populace and everything else. So it would, there's no definition as to what blighted really means. And that's problematic, to say the least. Now, they did say that the municipalities would have to establish some kind of appeals process, but, the House version of the same bill, which is HB 84, is sponsored by Jesse Sumner. Now, I could see this. Sumner is a home builder. And one of the things that the Alaska Beacon article mentions is that the bill was supported heavily and testified in favor of heavily by home builders and people working in economic development, because of course it's got that no tax thing on the front of it and everything else. But I also have to wonder if some of those home builders and people who do the remodeling and everything else are not also trying to push the people who may be in what some consider to be a blighted home to get that work done. It's all basically serving self-interest at this point. But the idea that somehow this is going to fix any kind of problems in those neighborhoods. I mean, if you don't have the money to fix then there are some people that have money to fix their home and they decide not to because they're happy living where they are. I could see that. But a lot of times people don't want, I had a blue tarp over my garage for a few years because it was leaking badly and I had no money to fix the roof. I eventually put a brand new steel roof on it. But for 2 or 3 years, I had a blue tarp over at the top of my detached garage because I couldn't afford to fix it. It wasn't, if you had hit me with extra property tax to do that, that would have seemed to have that would have been problematic. Anyway, the whole point of this is, if this is really about health and safety, then that's what it should be about. And in fact, Shelley Hughes attempted to make an amendment saying that if it had this, if it had this health and safety issue, that the Senate should require that any definition of blighted included that the property endangers public health or safety, and that amendment failed. So is it really about the public health? Because they went on and on about how it's about, protecting the public, but is it really, or is it just another way for someone to take something that's not theirs? I don't know. All right, we got to go. I'm up against the break. I got more coming up. Hour 2, State Senator Mike Shower will be joining us. It's the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay, in the break. Let me see here what's going on. Things. That bill is already the committee substitute for SB 77 is already scheduled for House Community and Regional Affairs tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you for the heads up on that. The procedure for that provides property owners the tax rate not to exceed 2% of the standards of remaining then remove the reduce tax the duration of time the rules of property owner established. Yeah. Again, this just sounds a lot like going back in and begging the government's permission to live on your own property. Thank you for that, Kev. I appreciate that. I'll come back to that here in a second. I'm going backwards here. See what you guys have been talking about. Okay, here we go. All taxes are immoral because taxation and theft is immoral. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, you are right. Property tax makes you a tenant. Yes, that's what I was saying. Don't pay your property taxes, and you will eventually find out who really owns your property. I mean, you don't really own any property, right? Brian said my sidebar was a very important sidebar. You are a servant if you own property. Pay the man and we kick you out. 330 homes sold in K-Town the past 2 years. Is that homes that were on the free market, or were those homes repossessed for tax purposes? Talking about taxes is a good way to make us all explode. Will this lead to a discussion explanation of geo-libertarianism? No, I won't, because I don't know enough about it to be able to sound semi-intelligent on it. Jeannie says, my property produces 6 cords of firewood. 6 cords of firewood a year. That's it. Undeveloped property. I pay a ridiculous amount of taxes on bare land. Yeah. Well, the recreational property getting taxed is what just burns me up. Burns me up. What is recreational property? You've got a piece of land on a river somewhere that happens to fall off the road system or whatever, falls outside it's just a cabin, your weekend getaway on the river, or your little cabin on the lake, or your your piece of property up on a mountain somewhere that just happens to fall within the borough boundaries. You're getting paid, you're getting jacked on that stuff. Sumner doing exactly what I expected him to. Next time, get a brown tarp. Much less offensive. I know, but the blue tarp was cheaper. You could see it from space at one point. We were laughing because they had Google Maps, the overhead, the satellite views of the Earth. We actually could look at our house and see that the roof was blue on the garage. We had to laugh. It's like, I've got a blue tarp you could see from space. You are the keeper of your property for the government. Oh man. It's crazy stuff. Whining about schools or jumping in and partnering with struggling schools, it's your choice. Yeah, except I didn't take either one of those choices. I just pulled them out and took care of it myself. That's a false dichotomy. You don't have to whine about schools or jump in to partner with struggling schools and try and work within the system. You can just do it yourself. That's better in the long run, I think. I could see King Bryce Ward coming through the borough with a sword drawn, demanding taxes be paid on the spot here in Fairbanks. Time to do it. Time to do away with this. No, I mean, this is I'm not loving it. Not loving it at all. I do have the language of that portion of the bill here, thanks to Kevin, and we will talk about that here in just a minute. Recreational property. That's the thing. I mean, and recreational property doesn't get any of the benefits, generally speaking, of regular property. I mean, almost whatever the thing is, whether it's snow plowing or anything else, they get nothing for the most part on those things. And yet you're paying buku bucks for that kind of stuff. All right, here we go. Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like it, share, like it, follow. So I've got the language of the bill. By the way, the bill is already on its way to Community and Regional Affairs in the House tomorrow at 8 a.m. So they've already passed it all the way out of the Senate, and it's heading over to the House for a viewing and a reading there. So we'll see how the House majority handles this one. It'll be interesting to see which way people go on this. The people who voted against it, by the way, Jesse Bjorkman, Shelley Hughes, Rob Myers, Mike Schauer, Bert Stedman, and David Wilson all voted against it. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Bishop, Kathy Giesel, James Kaufman, Kelly Merrick, Gary Stevens all voted in favor of it, along with all the other Democrats. But it's interesting. Now, I've got the language of the actual component of the bill, which we'll get to here in just a hot second. Although Kevin McCabe just gave us his piece here in the chat room, he said, I think it has more to do with commercial buildings. If you're a business owner and the building next to you allow his property or building or business to fall into disrepair to the point that it becomes a haven for criminals and your business suffers, should there be a way to fix that? I think currently there is not. So you have to move your business or fail. It is emblematic of issues in Anchorage mostly and has lots to do with crime. That's fine. I understand that component of it. The problem is that if that's what you're looking to do, then you need to set the definition in statute and not leave it up, or at least a base definition. If you want to have it be able to be expanded on, then that's something else. But I have a problem with this because I've served on the assembly in Fairbanks where they have properties that they actually called blighted properties. People who, over the years collected a bunch of cars and had like a mini junkyard on their properties. But I mean, they own 15 acres. And so what did it really matter except that the neighbors would get mad after the neighbors moved into the neighborhood knowing that was there? Then they would get mad and come to the assembly and demand that we do something about this unregulated junkyard that's down the street or whatever. And I could see those regulations being used to penalize property owners who just wanted to be left alone and they weren't hurting anybody. And maybe they were hoarders or maybe whatever. They just wanted to live in their junk. Hey, that's not on me, man. That's not on me. So anyway, the problem here is, well, I mean, Reagan said it best. The problem is government, right? That is the problem. And I know everybody's like, oh, anarchy, blood in the streets. Who'll fix the roads? All the other things that you hear about this. Let me read you, just so that you understand what we're talking about. Let me read you the property tax portion of it, which is the levy of tax on blighted property. A municipality may levy a tax on real property that the municipality designates as blighted if, before levying the tax, the municipality adopts an ordinance that establishes 1, standards for determining whether a property is blighted, and 2, a procedure for designating a property as blighted that provides to the property owner notice of the proposed designation and an opportunity to challenge the designation at a hearing. 3, the tax rate not to exceed 50% of the annual property tax assessed on a property that applies to a property designated as blighted. 4, standards for remedying or redeveloping a property to remove the property's designation as blighted. 5, a reduced tax rate and the duration of time that the reduced tax rate will apply for a property that is undergoing remediation or redevelopment to remove the property's designation as blighted. Also, for the owner of a property designated as blighted to qualify for a reduced tax rate established under the previous section, the owner must submit to the municipality a plan for remediating or redeveloping the property. The municipality must approve the plan, and the property owner must comply with the terms of the plan.
Please, sir, may I have another? I just so like a crust of bread, if it pleases the king. May I do what I want?
An ordinance adopted under A of this section may require tax collected under this section to be segregated from other property tax and dedicated to community redevelopment purposes. They want to designate funds to do it over here. But a lot of this, what it sounds like is,
I've been a bad boy, Your Honor, and I will do whatever you tell me because I am a subject and not a citizen.
That's what it sounds like a lot like to me. Right? I mean, it's a full-on, gotta go back and beg the government's permission to do with my private property that I'm still paying for. Even though I may have owned it for years, I'm still paying the government. I mean, I own property in Fairbanks, free and clear, paid off, all done. Guess what? Still got to pay property taxes. The minute that I don't, I get the little notice in the mail that not only do I owe a penalty for not paying the taxes on time, if I don't pay it within the next 24 months, they'll just foreclose on it and take it away from me. Enough said. Boom, you're done. Okay. I mean, it's, this is why I don't get into this issue so much, because I just get so agitated. And we're so far down this road. There are not many of us who see it this way. There are not many people in the conservative / libertarian camp who will see. You'll talk to many conservative stalwarts who will be look you in the eye when you start talking about stuff like this, and they go, "Well, that's crazy talk. How are we going to fund government if we don't have property taxes? How are we going to? Well, it'll be some other kind of tax." And you're like, but haven't you taken this to its logical conclusion? Haven't you taken it to that if you can never, ever own your property, if you can't just live off the property itself for free, essentially, and whatever monies you've invested and do anything else like that, then, I mean, there have been people who have moved out of Fairbanks that I personally know of because after they did all the figuring and everything else, and it was a retirement age and all that, the one thing that they didn't, because it was a close run thing, the thing they didn't account for was the fact that their home that had been owned free and clear for 25 or 30 years by the time they retired, that was going to appreciate so much, and that the mill rate had gone up so much that they could no longer afford to pay the extra $250 or $300 a month that it was going to be for the property taxes on their property. So they had planned to stay and live in Fairbanks after they retired, and they had to just throw their hands up, and they moved to Tennessee or someplace. And that's just immoral. You will never own your property. I mean, at one point I was looking for pieces of property outside the borough because I was like, how do I do this? How do I live someplace where I can actually own something? Where I can own it. I mean, there's no guarantee the state won't come down and tax it sometime in the future, but as of this moment, there's nobody else taxing it. I mean, this is somebody who was literally wanted to stay in Fairbanks, wanted to retire, wanted to hang out, stay there, be close, but as they started to look at it and a rate started to rise, the appreciation of the property plus the mill rate, and then they realized, that's an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a year that we just weren't counting on because we owned it outright. No payments, no. Immoral. Gotta go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay, I had to enhance my cool for a minute. All right. So Kevin says Wasilla has no property taxes, only sales taxes. Wasilla is debt free. Be like Wasilla. I was so pleasantly surprised when I got down to Wasilla and started looking around and seeing things like that. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool stuff. Chris says property taxes are worse down in the lower 48 compared to up here. Well, here's the thing, Chris. They had a home that was $280,000 or something like that, $290,000 at 14 and a half mils or whatever it was. And so they cashed out, and it was Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee. And they went down there and they bought a place down there for $150,000 that was just as nice as what they had up in Fairbanks. And the property taxes may have been the same, but the overall rate when it was all said and done was much lower. and they could afford to live there. Plus, you didn't have the utility bills and everything else. It was cheaper. Property taxes are immoral and economically terrible. Give me a sales tax any day, says Donna. I mean, I think Wasilla has it right. And boy, they are protective of that. They had a 0.5% increase, a 0.5 cent increase. The sales tax went from 2 to 2.5% for a short period of time because they were redoing the library here in Wasilla. And it had a sunset clause built into it. And that sunset clause basically said, once the library is paid for, this will revert back to the 2%. And there was a whole bunch of people who were like, oh, we really need to, we could, now that the library's almost paid for, we need to keep that because we could do all these things with your money. The people like Burt Cottle and everything else were just, we could do all these great things. And the people said,
no, sorry.
Take it back to 2%. We're not out here for your adventurism with our money. Yeah, it was the same deal with the Menard Center. Exactly. They hiked the property taxes up, or the sales taxes up for for a short period of time to pay for the Menard Center, to pay for the renovation of the rebuild. No, not the rebuild, the construction. They built a whole new library. It wasn't a rebuild. My apologies. They built a whole new library. But in just a couple of years, they got it done. And then they reduced the taxes again. But yeah, all those I can just remember all those people talking about it.
We'll do great things. We'll do great things with that 0.5%. Just give us more.
That's what they're talking about. People just want to smack somebody. Okay. Harold, why don't you just go back to bed? Man, you must be a very unhappy person. You are critical of everything and everyone. I feel bad for you, man. Like, every little thing is just, it's bad. And then every now and then you'll say something that's like, oh yeah, that's right, I agree with that. And then you just go back to immediately bashing everybody and everything, calling out people's mothers and stuff like that. I feel bad for you, man. Must be tough. All right. You should move to Prince of Wales Island. No property tax there. Yeah, but it is Prince of Wales Island. There's not a lot of anything there. There's no property tax there. There's not a lot of anything there. Wasilla Billies are very proud of the fact that they sunset the sales tax. Some conservatives, such as Colleen Sullivan Leonard, fought very hard to sunset those taxes the way the people intended. And that's the way it should be. Quite honestly, there should be automatic sunsets built into pretty much everything we do at this point. We should always have to come back and revisit it. Once you put it in place, it's, it's very, very, bears. There's bears on Prince of Wales. Well, that's true. That is very true. That is very true. All right. Well, I don't know where Shower is. I confirmed with him yesterday. I'm waiting for him to connect. He's not in the green room yet. We may be doing this on the fly on the other side. We'll see what happens. But it will be momentarily ready to go. We're about 60 seconds out. I bought the property. Rick's like, I bought the property and approved it. They should pay me. Well, don't give them that idea because they'll take it from somebody else to pay you. I mean, that's essentially what they're doing with these property tax exemptions for new properties, right? Everybody else is going to be carrying the burden of whatever service that they're going to use for the number of years that they have an exemption. So it does it even out? I don't even know. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream, the podcast, which is available pretty much everywhere, including Spotify, which is my favorite podcasting app. And, of course, links to our social media sites as well, where we broadcast the show every day on Facebook and YouTube. I'm looking at, 70 people or so hanging out in the chat room this morning with us. Feel free to come on over there if you want to have a behind-the-scenes conversation. We always have some good discussions during the commercial breaks and over the tops of the hour and stuff. Come join the crowd there. Speaking of joining, might I suggest that if you enjoy the program, that you come out and be part of it in a different way. Come join the Cool Kids Club. We call it Michael Dukes' Common Sense Corps. It's like the fan club. It's like the it's where we kind of hang out. If you become a member of the Corps, which you can do for as little as $3 or $4 a month, you could become a member of the Corps. You get access to our private Facebook group and so much more, just hanging out. And, of course, you get the bragging rights of being a member of the Corps. And your support helps to go to do things like we did that big upgrade in December with new equipment and everything else here that makes the show better, more stable, easier to do, getting more guests. We now do a full video. The show on radio remains the same, but on the Facebooks and the YouTubes and everything else, we've got like new full video software where we interview the guests, but they're all video interviews. You don't see it on the radio because it's radio, but on the rest of it, you get to see the guests' smiling, happy face, and we chat and talk, and we're just going to keep making it better. Anything I can think of to make the show better, and better for you, easier for me. It's all good stuff. That's what it's all about. So go check out the Common Sense Corps. Go to michaeldukeshow.com and just click on Join the Corps, or you can go to patreon.com/Michael Dukes Show. And it's, again, just a way of helping us out around here and making things roll. Okay. Maybe a studio tour for Common Sense Corps members. Somebody just said, maybe you could offer a studio tour for Common Sense Corps members. This is it. This is the studio. It's 4 by 8 feet. You see behind me, the front wall, there's computer monitors in front of me. That's the whole thing. That's the studio. Anyway, I might do that though, just for one day, just to do a video tour and show everybody what the studio looks like. Because I'm sure it looks glamorous from your side, not as glamorous from this side, but that's the magic that is radio. That is the magic of radio. Okay, well, I don't know where Shower is. I confirmed with him yesterday, late yesterday afternoon. We're on, and I'm waiting for him to call. I could just phone call him, but he's supposed to be doing the video call with me, which, I hate to be left holding the bag. What the heck is going on? Let me, let's see. Can I call him? Let me see if I can call him. We'll see if we're going to see what's going on here. We'll try this and see. Your call has been forwarded. That would be no. Apparently his phone goes straight to voicemail. So, I guess we'll just, I just turned off the phones. I did call him. I called him and it went straight to voicemail. Boom. So, We'll see what happens here. Meanwhile, I guess I'll turn the phone lines back on because I calmed down over the break, and I've kind of cooled off a little bit. Although we did get some good comments in the chat room during the break on everything that's going on. And I would be honest with you. I think Wasilla, Wasilla, I think they've got it going on. Those folks in Wasilla have done a great job of. Wasilla has no sales tax. The city of Wasilla has no sales tax. I'm sorry. Let me reverse that. Has no property tax. Only the sales tax. And the city of Wasilla is debt free. And the city of Wasilla has in the past had a higher tax rate that they put in for a temporary amount of time to do certain things. Like, for example, when they built the Menard Sports Center, which is the ice arena, indoor soccer fields. It was a little sports complex that they built that they used for lots of community stuff. But they built it all with an increase in the sales tax for a short period of time. And when it was over, they reduced the tax back down to the 2% level. So it's basically 2 cents of every dollar is going in that's spent commercially in Wasilla going to government. And then they did the same thing when they needed to rebuild the library. They wanted to build a new library, brand new, fancy, much larger library, because the library that they had was this tiny, tiny little thing. For you folks in North Pole, it was the size of the North Pole Library, serving a city the size of, of Fairbanks kind of thing. And so they cranked it up from 2 to 2.5%, and they did it for a certain period of time, and then the sun set it and went away. Now, interestingly enough, the politicians of the time, and I'm thinking specifically here about, I know Mayor Burt Cottle at the time was really high on, we need to keep that extra 0.5% because there's so many good things we could do with that money. So many good, the politician's disease. I loved Burt. Burt, since he's passed away last year, but he and I have had arguments about this in the past. Burt he had a little bit of that politics. There's so many good things we could do with that money if you just give it to us. Well, luckily the people in Wasilla have figured out that game, and they don't do that. They put a sunset provision in any kind of sales tax increase that will automatically expire the tax, and that's it. So they paid for a brand new sports center. It's not brand new now. This was years ago. But they've just paid for a brand new library since I've been down here. It's only been open 4 years, I think. They built a brand new state-of-the-art library, and it's all paid for. All paid for. With tax dollars that were then reduced back down to where they could live within their budget. And, Wasilla, the city of Wasilla, is a case study in how those things should go as far as, efficiency in government. Donna Ardwin says property taxes are immoral and economically terrible. Give me a sales tax any day. Yeah. Property taxes, we've talked about this in the past, that property taxes really disincentivize you to improve your property. They disincentivize you to improve your property, because if I've got, T111 on the outside of my house, or I know many people who've got I've still got a wall of Tyvek on one side of my house, simply because if I finish it off, they're going to jack my property taxes up $1 gazillion, or, that's their mentality. You are disincentivizing people to maintain or update or improve their property. It just makes no sense whatsoever. I've just never understood that. Anyway, I suppose I'm sorry. I said I was going to relaunch the phone lines, and I didn't do that. So let me do that now. I will relaunch the phone lines, and we'll see what you guys have to say. 907 433 3150. 907-433-3150. This hour of the program, by the way, being sponsored by your friends over there at Satellite West. You can go to satellitewest.com, find a list of local dealers and all the things that they do, but they will keep you connected no matter where you are. All right. Let me go over to the phones, and there was one line on hold, and the second, there it is. Okay, it's coming back. We got one line apparently that's about to be on hold, and we will be all squared away here, and we'll take your calls on this. I mean, am I out of line here? I mean, I know that there's some conservatives out there, again, and some Republicans who I've talked to about this in the past, and they kind of give me a funny look, like, step away from the crazy man. Because I'm like, we shouldn't have to pay property taxes on our non-commercial property. That should not even be a thing. So am I crazy or not? You be the judge. Let's go over to the phones and take this first call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Matt calling from Clear Space Force Station.
Well, good morning, Matt. How are you, my friend?
Not too bad. How are you?
You know, just another beautiful day in paradise. What's on your mind this morning?
So I heard you on the radio, and you said that the of Alaska, Wasilla doesn't have property taxes. Is that correct?
In the unincorporated areas, there's no property taxes on private property outside of the incorporated areas. Like in a non-borough area, there's not private property taxes out there.
Got it. Okay, because I live in Wasilla. I have property taxes.
You live where, and you have property taxes?
In like the municipality of Wasilla.
Of Wasilla, the borough. You live in the Wasilla.
Yeah.
The Matsu borough has property taxes, but the city, the city's a different story, right? So inside the city limits, but yeah, and outside, of course, of any incorporated area, it also is free of property taxes. That's why I think a lot of people live up on these weird, you're driving up the highway back and forth between Clear and Matsu, and you see these little houses that are out, 90 miles out. And that's because they're living outside the borough. And you'll always see like a clump right on the edge of a borough line where people have bought property, like right on the edge of the borough line, so they don't have to pay property taxes. But yeah, that's what it's about, sir.
Yeah, correct. So the Wasilla sales tax, 5%. You were saying that originally they were at like 2%, and they bumped it up to 2.5% to do a project, and then they bumped it down. So I'm wondering if they have another project going on.
They may, because that's the standard practice. They've done this a couple times where they're building certain things, and usually it's a 0.5% increase, and then it comes back down. Like I said, the last time that it came back down, they were fighting Mayor Cottle, Burt Cottle, who was mayor at the time, was fighting to keep the 0.5% for spending, and there was a big fervor and debate over it, and eventually it sunsetted. So maybe they've started something new, and they may have a new project, and maybe it's up to 2.5% again. But that historically has been the amount that they usually raise it by 0.5% for a number of years, and then they let it drop again.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I've got property out in Talkeetna, in between Talkeetna and Willow, and I've got 60 acres out there. And my property taxes, that is like Wasilla.
Oh yeah, no. The property taxes, the borough property taxes are still in place, but it's the municipal city taxes that we're talking about here. So, all right. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling in and listening.
That makes sense then.
Yeah, thank you for calling in and listening out in Clear. Thank you for your working out there and keeping us safe. I appreciate that. Thank you for your call. Let's go over here. I got one more call before we go to break. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, this is Jason from Fairbanks.
Hey, Jason.
I have a couple of ideas for you.
Okay.
And also, I was wondering, did you get my emails?
I did get your emails. I saw you sent me 2 different emails about the food security stuff. So I'm going to go through those later today.
2 copies.
Yep.
Okay. And the idea I want to pass along to you was that in Pakistan in the 1960s, before they went to pot, so to speak, they had a funding system where people would elect people from areas as small as a city block, like in Islamabad or one of the other cities, and of course out in the countryside too, to handle things like potholes in the roads and services, things like that. And they would give that person money, kind of like our snow plowing arrangement that we have here, and it worked and worked well. It's just the leaders decided they wanted to consolidate everything, and they soon became a socialist whole country, as Donald Trump would say.
Right.
Well, which they unfortunately remain today. But the original system they had, which was federalism at a very granulated scale, worked very well, and that might work equally well in Alaska here.
Well, that's an
What do
interesting.
you think?
Well, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't really considered that. I kind of believe as well in natural order, people being able to help each other out and do some of these things. I mean, the federalization in the government. This is one of the reasons why when I served on the Borough Road Service Area Road Service Commission in Fairbanks, that I tried to prevent more people from. I tried to encourage them to just be neighborly and to maintain their own roads and do some of that stuff without getting the borough involved, because the second you do the oversight, then it becomes public money and all this other kind of stuff. I believe that people can take care of themselves in a lot of way. And, I think that they know what's best for them down at the local level. That's kind of where I'm at on this.
Okay. I can't hear you. My line's blank.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I appreciate Jason. I'm sorry. I'm coming up on the break.
I hear you now.
Yeah, I'll
you're back up. You're back up now.
Yep. Well, I'll put you on hold, and I'll tell you what I just said again. But we're up against the break. We got to go. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty based, free thinking radio. We'll continue with more in just a moment. Still hoping to hear from Shower here. We'll see what happens. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, that was close. So Jason, I was just saying that I believe that people can be. I believe that the local control is the best control for things that are happening in government. That's why when I was on the borough assembly and I served as the chair of the RSAC, which was the Area Road Service Commission, I would encourage people who were talking about whether or not they should become road service areas. I would encourage them to give it some deeper thought and maybe just try and work it out amongst themselves, because the idea that once you form a road service area commission, you formalize it, it becomes a government entity, and then it's government funds, and then you got to abide by all these, and I was just like, can't you guys just plow, do things? Because that just makes more sense to me. People taking care of people in their own communities. That's what it makes. And some people are going to free ride. That's always going to happen. But some people are going to give more than others. That's always going to happen. But I think that in a lot of ways, that's better than basically spreading the misery around, to paraphrase Winston Churchill about communism and spreading misery. I think it's better that way than basically spreading the misery evenly across all the people.
And between those who free ride and those who do something, they probably balance out pretty well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree on that. So thank you for your call, my friend. I appreciate it.
One last thing, your audio is echoing like crazy.
Which is why you couldn't hear me before, because I muted myself because of the echo. I know that there's occasionally an echo on it. So,
sorry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate it. We will
All right, I'll talk to you later or by email.
Continue here. We got one more line on hold. Let's get their name and figure out who they are, where they're calling from, and we'll see what they have to go there. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Barbara calling from the North Pole. How are you today?
Good, Barb. I'll put you on hold, and you'll be first up in the queue when we get back, okay?
Hey, you've got a great big echo.
I know you've got a great big echo. I know. I've said that. I just said that to Jason. Same thing. It's the only way for you to hear me, but you won't hear me echo while you're talking. So we'll do that, okay? Hold the line. I'll be right back to you. Barb in North Pole is our guest. I don't know why. Sometimes the echo's there, sometimes it's not. I just have to, North Pole. Barb and North Pole. All right, I got it. Barb and North Pole up there. Let's see. He's sleeping. Dang, fighter pilots can't ever get enough sleep. Well, it's all those military personnel. They can learn to sleep standing up at some point, right? That's what's going on there. Let's see. It's about trust. The next time the city needs something, the residents will agree to an increase for a short period of time, says Angie. Yeah, I agree. I think it creates that great synergy between the government and the people when they're like, they know that they can depend on, you put in something like that with a sunset. They know it's going to be used for a short period of time, and then it moves on. Wasilla is pretty, as a city, it's good. David Boyle agrees with Donna, in part, conditionally. Donna, a sales tax is better than a property tax, but I favor some exemptions to the sales tax. Included would be baby formula, diapers, basic food items, and others. I would include medication in that. I don't know about baby formula or diapers. I mean, I think baby formula would be covered under food. I think food, medical supplies, I don't know. I've been paying a sales tax for 9 years now because I shop in Wasilla a lot, and it hasn't killed me. And I understand that the city of Wasilla does a good job with it, so I'm not too worried about it. Right? There you go. Okay, we are on the edge here of getting to it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like it, share, like it, follow, do all the stuff, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube, that kind of thing. And we will return. Barb's in North Pole. She's on the line. We're going to jump into it with her here right now. There you go. Here we go. Let's do it. Good morning and welcome to it. We're continuing right now with the Michael Duke Show. We was hoping a shower was going to be on, but I don't know. I'm hoping everything's okay because, again, I confirmed with him yesterday. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's okay. We'll see what happens with that. Meanwhile, I threw open the phone lines because we've been talking about private property rights, and we've been talking about property taxes, and we've been talking about all this stuff. And I want to get your hot take on this. Am I out of line? Am I crazy? Is it that my crazy libertarian talk when I say that property tax is immoral and problematic and should be abolished on residential property, at least, if not most properties, with the exception of commercial? I don't know. Let's see what you guys have to say. 907-433-3150. We have Barb on the line from North Pole. Let's see what she's talking about. Good morning, Barb. What are your thoughts this morning?
Muted. Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with you about shifting to a sales tax off a property tax. I am just so over it with the local assessor here in the Fairbanks North Pole area. I'm just, I just keep getting stories that are just not good. I wanted to alert people, though, to some things that are on the agenda for tomorrow night at the Borough Assembly here in Fairbanks. One of them is a ballot measure to greatly to expand the powers and offer new municipal services to do opioid abatement. Apparently, there is some kind of legal settlement on opioid abatement available to all the organized boroughs that I guess the mayor in Fairbanks, North Star Borough, seems to think that he needs to greatly expand his powers to accept these funds and spend them. And I finally yesterday got a list of the expanded powers they are requesting in the settlement, and they are breathtakingly large.
What kind of powers
So,
are we talking about here? Because Health and Social Services has been a power that has not been given to the Fairbanks North Star Borough. They have nothing to do with health and safety or health and any kind of medical things. Or so what are they looking for in this new bill? What kind of powers are they looking to glom onto themselves?
Well, the attachment that was sent to me by borough attorney has 13 pages in tiny print that range everything from like neonatal care to, I mean, a whole bunch of things that we just don't do at the borough level, and we have no business doing. I mean, if the state wants to do those things, that's great. Supporting homeless, supporting people who have financially supporting homeless people who are opioid addicted, funding treatment centers, the whole look kind of like an Anchorage sort of thing to me. And I have great compassion for people with opioid addiction, but I don't think the Fairbanks North Star Borough Assembly is really equipped to do this.
Well, no, this would be, yeah. I mean, this exactly. When you just
Um,
said that, all of those things sound exactly like what's going on down in Anchorage now. Homelessness coordinators, monies, buildings, neonatal care. That's not what a second-class borough is supposed to be dealing with. There should be no health and welfare powers for the borough, health and safety powers for the borough. They should be doing what they're doing. I mean, my suggestion is that they roll back some of the things they got right now. But expansion of borough powers, you don't need that in the Fairbanks North Star Borough.
No, and not only that, I am really mortified that it's even on the agenda, quite frankly. The enticement here is that all of these boroughs have received these, are eligible to receive these settlement funds.
Right.
And they're supposed to go for like 18 years. They want these permanent new powers. And I'm speechless when I read this list of.
This is the hook, Barb, right? I mean, this is the hook. All that free money, there's a hook down there in the middle of it. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to grow and expand government because that's by its very nature. Government is hungry for money, and they see that free money and they never see the hook. Okay, good. It's there for 18 years. What happens on year 19? On year 19, who's on the hook? Who's on the hook for all this stuff that they've built up? The homelessness division and shelters and things that they're paying for and all this other stuff. Who's on the hook then? Me and you, property owners in the Fairbanks North Star Borough.
Oh, absolutely. And you are so right about what's going on with the property taxes up here. People are being priced out of their homes. And by the way, that's the other thing that's on the agenda for tomorrow night is the mill rate. So I just looked at the mill rate and shook my head and went, I think we can do better.
Oh, I agree with that. I thought we could have done better 10 years ago. All right, Barb. Well, thank you for your call. I appreciate you calling in and sounding off this morning. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Let's continue on with our next call to see who they are and where you're calling from. So who are you and where are you calling from? Let me try that again. Are you with us, caller?
Charles in Fairbanks.
Hello, Charles. What's on
have
your
you
mind?
heard of Thomas Paine and the Citizens Dividend?
I've heard of Thomas Paine. I don't know the Citizens Dividend is ringing a bell, but I don't remember what it is, Charles.
In 1776, the book Common Sense came out. But anyway, this was a book later after he died. It was published called Agrarian Justice by Thomas Paine. And he's saying that land was valuable because it took more than one generation perhaps to manure a field, in that time. That's why it was valuable, because very little land was productive. That's why the taxes were applied in that case and not on other properties. Agrarian Justice is a good reference. It's solid, man.
All right. Well, I'll go out.
Citizen dividend.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it and see what it entails. Charles, thank you for giving me the info. I appreciate that. Let's go over here. We'll take one more call before we go to break at 907-433-3150. What do you think? I mean, the property taxes and everything else. Do you think that I'm out of line on this, or am I right on target? Your thoughts right now. We go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy from Delta.
Hello, Randy from Delta. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, you are spot on about property taxes. I've said for years, but I've never understood why and how the American people ever allowed government to put a lien on their property. Private property is a cornerstone of freedom in a constitutional republic, which is what America was founded as, not a democracy. Property taxes are a draconian government lien on your property that never goes away. Pay it or face foreclosure and eviction.
Right. Absolutely.
How American is that?
No, I agree. I agree. You're never going to own your own property. I mean, again, the example of, my grandparents owning a piece of property for 70 years, yet still having to pay the government for permission to use it. And, don't think that you own it, because the second that you stop, you're 36 months from being boosted off the property. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Exactly. You are a glorified renter. That's all. You never own your property anymore. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're spot on. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate.
And one other comment I would like to say, Michael, is that I appreciate your stand on abortion very much.
Well,
spot on there too. So keep it up.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I just calls them like I sees them. You know how it is. So I appreciate your call. Thank you, Randy, for calling in from Delta, where also there is no property tax, I will say. So good for you guys out there. Thank you, Randy, for coming on board.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
I mean, Delta has faced, this is why you'll see it in many areas where a lot of the legislators or different politicians, they really want some of these areas to be incorporated. They really want to create a borough structure. They really want to do that. I mean, Delta has actually dodged the bullet on that several times, where they've been people wanted to try and incorporate them into a borough so that they can be, and people have said no. They've continued to say no. And good for them. That's how they want to do it. Then that's, that should be their choice. That's the bottom line. That's where choice should be. All right. We're coming up to it. We got more. We're going to continue here in just a moment. One final segment. And we'll just see what you have to say. Again, 907-433-3150. How are you feeling about property taxes? Are there any people out there who have retired or who are getting close to retirement who are looking at this? Because, again, I told anecdotally the story of the family that I knew that decided to move out, the couple, based strictly on the property taxes. It was the final straw that made them move from Alaska, even though they didn't want to. How is that factoring out for you if you're at retirement age or getting close? 907-433-3150, The Michael Duke Show.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, let me go back to the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying here. It was tiny but intimate and smelled like books. The new one is nice but noisy due to the high ceiling, says Denise. You're talking about the Wasilla Library? Because you're right. I mean, the Wasilla Library was the old one was nice and cozy and quaint, but it was tiny. Okay. Which is going to happen to us in Fairbanks this summer, closing the Knollween for renovations. If we want to use the library, we have to go to North Pole. Oh, but yeah, you're going to be paying for that for years to come for sure. I should move to Wasilla. Sounds like a place to save money. I've been saying that for almost 9 years, Chris. I've been saying that for almost 9 years. That, I used to say that I'd never leave Fairbanks. And then eventually I said that I'd never leave Alaska because there is life after Fairbanks. I love Fairbanks. I love the people. Don't love the harsher environment. And I saved a ton of money moving down here. Gary says the Wasilla tax would never work in Fairbanks due to the absolute corruption in the borough. It does show, if you're asking about property taxes, you can't afford it. Yep. If it does show politicians how things are supposed to work, the back and forth, especially the people voting, demonstrated to Mayor Cottle and others that the by the people for the people aspect of government. Yeah. I mean, Cottle was like on a full court press to keep that percentage rate, that 0.5%. He was seriously wanted just, I want that money. And it was voted down. Yep, it was voted down. Does the Matsu pay for law enforcement or does the state troopers provide most all of law enforcement, says David. The Matsu borough has no police powers, so there is no Matsu law enforcement. The city of Wasilla has a police department. The city of Palmer has a police department. And then in any area outside of those city limits, it's state troopers. That's just like it is in Fairbanks, where you got a Fairbanks Police Department and you got a North Pole City Police Department, and then you got in between you got state troopers. That's how everything is. Let's see. And the sales tax cuts off over a certain value. Yeah, when you reach a certain, I can't remember what the threshold is. Right, it is what it is. Go Donald. Right, we need a Harold. You're the only one that's saying that. You've been saying that the last couple of days, and I'm not a fan of Trump. I don't know why you think that this is, again, I feel sorry for you, man. What the heck? The problem, this is back when I was talking about road service areas. The problem with that, MD, is that those who do the work to plow the roads get taken advantage of. I plowed my road for years. It's outside the RSA until I realized that those who use the road were not contributing any money, time, or effort. And even those who did contribute wildly underestimated the cost. It cost me thousands of dollars every year in gas and time, and I would get a hundo here and there. Human nature, I guess. That is human nature. But I guess my other question is, did you ever tell them what it cost to do that? I mean, I'm not criticizing you, buddy. I'm just saying I understand. But I would have basically gone up and down the road and said, here's the thing. I've been plowing this road for a while, and I can tell you that this is what the cost is. And anything you can kick in based on the number of people, if everybody just pitched in $150 a month or whatever it is, I could keep all the roads clean for the whole month. Please let me know. And then, again, I probably wouldn't do the extra mile stuff around their ends of their driveways, right? I mean, that's just, we'll see. Ammo should be exempt from a sales tax. Yes, I'm all about that. I agree with you. I paid my house off 5 years ago and still make payments, the taxes. That's 100%. And yes, property taxes in Anchorage are insane. Property taxes in the Fairbanks North Star Borough is insane. When I reach the age of 65, my property taxes go away, as I will receive an exemption from property taxes, but only up to a certain amount. Right? It's not the full, if you've got a larger house or, you've done well for yourself in that regard and put all your money into that, you're not going to get it. And that exemption can go away at any time. So, if in the KPB, if you don't pay taxes by November, they'll foreclose on your property the following July. Holy cow. That's a process. I didn't pay my taxes in Fairbanks at one point, and it was 22 months before they really started getting nasty with me. Then I went back and paid it all. I was really pissed about something. So I grumble. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. We got one line on hold. We'll talk to them here in just a second. Please like and share, like and follow, like and subscribe. Let's do it. Okay. Let's get back into it here. I got one line on hold, but I did want to mention this because I was saying that if you didn't pay your property taxes, you were 36 months from being kicked out. Because that's what happens in the Fairbanks North Star Borough. I got late on my taxes at one point, and they actually put me on the list, right, because they publish a list. These are the properties that are going to come up for sale here in the next 12 months or whatever, and they put me on the list, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll go pay the taxes, damn it. I didn't want to do it. But down in the KPB, apparently, Jeannie says, in the Kenai Peninsula Borough, if you don't pay your taxes by November, they will foreclose on your property the following July. They are not messing around down there, apparently. That's not a good thing. I'm just, wow. They really want their pound of flesh, don't they? All right, well, let's go over to the phones. The phone lines are still open right now at 907-433-3150. And I asked the question, if you are at retirement age and are retired or are getting near it, how does the property tax figure in there? And that includes the property tax exemption, because there is an exemption for people over 65, I think. Is that what it is? And it's their primary residence. Then they get a portion of those, but only up to 120,000. They're exempted on the first 120,000. So, that's part and parcel of the deal. But what are your thoughts? Does that affect you? Yes or no? Let's go to the phones and see what you have to say on this. And we'll start over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Evan from Fairbanks.
Good morning, Evan. What is on your mind, my friend?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's on your mind, sir?
I think that exemption. I think that exemption is 150,000 that you're talking about there. But what I was going to also mention, you're talking about the borough issue. You can be incorporated as a borough. I believe that an alley borough is one such one, and not have a property tax. So that's an important factor to consider. And on the issue with the unincorporated borough, with the whole unorganized borough, as they call it, technically speaking, they could get taxed because the legislature, the state legislature, is their borough assembly, according to our Constitution. So that it's not as if they're in the clear from getting it, especially as state finances get strapped.
Well, that is true. That is true. That is one of the dangers. That is one of the dangers out there that could happen. And you are also correct that they could form a borough and then decide not to tax themselves. Forming a borough, though, also creates some other challenges with things like schooling and things like, the school funding and stuff like that. But you are right. In defense, you can create a borough and then have almost no mill rate. Or you could be in an unincorporated area and they could create a statewide sales tax on unincorporated areas. They could do that. So you're right. But as of right now, the best way to own your property is to be outside of an incorporated area.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that in Denali, for example, they've kept a very limited form of government, so they have local control over it, and they have no property tax. They do it mostly. They fund their stuff through a bed tax. But anyway, that's another thing. The other thing I was going to bring up was here in Fairbanks. This is one of the problems with the property tax system, in my view, is that, and I've fought. I'll give you an example. I bought a dry cabin some years back. My assessed value on it went up twice as much as what I had just paid for it. I went in to appeal, and they threaten you, if you appeal this, your valuation can actually go up. It's on the proof. The burden of proof is on you to prove them wrong. You have to prove that their assessment is wrong. Anyway, they do the whole thing. It's an inverted burden of proof.
Right.
And then they go and tell you that the price you bought it for, this was looking with my purchase. Oh no, that's discounted. So why is that? Because you got it below such and such a percent below our valuation. Therefore, it's considered a discounted value. In other words, they don't put it into their metric. So they only count values that are within their existing parameters.
Oh man, talk about
a self-confirming cycle.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about penalizing you. And oh, by the way, if you appeal this, we'll just jack it up more. I mean, that's just thuggery right there. That's what that is. That's thuggery. Oh, if you appeal this, we'll just jack it up even more, and then you still have to prove it. So shut up and sit down, young man. That's some bullying right there for sure.
Yeah, it's just an inverted system of proof. And you can't even use the purchase price you purchased for as proof positive of the value of the property. It's very ironic. And yet the burden remains on you to prove that the borough's assessment is wrong. And that's stated very explicitly in the that way. If you appeal, you have to prove them wrong. Well, how do you do that? That's what I've gone around. I did. It's a very long process, and they anyway, it's exceedingly difficult. And very opaque, I'll say that. But
anyway, don't leave me hanging. Did you
go on about that whole thing? But
don't leave me hanging. Did you appeal it, or did you just let it lie at that point? I'm curious.
I did. Oh no, I appealed it hardcore. My first meeting with them was hours long. So the first lady told me, "Oh, the valuation process. It's a what's the term people like to use? It's a formula. It just spits out this valuation." I was like, I'm sorry. Oh, it's a model. That's what she said. It's the model. The model only models what you tell it to model. How did you come up with this valuation? Well, she didn't know, and so they sent someone else. And long story short, it wasn't worth my time even at that point to do it. But I told them, I said, I'm going to keep fighting you because it's a matter of principle. So I'm not going away. And they did come to the table, to be honest. But they make it difficult. They actually ended up cutting my valuation from what they had in half, much closer to what I purchased the property for. And once you do fight it hard, then it tends to keep your valuation lower. If you don't fight it, you can't go back and fight a previous valuation increase. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
So if you just say, it's too much work, then you can't go back and say, oh, and by the way, these last 3 years you've kept on goosing me, and this is not, nope, sorry. Once it's baked into the dough, it's too late.
Right.
So you really do have to fight it as earnestly and as quickly as you can. But it's an astonishing process, and I talked to many people, legislature, borough folks, who didn't understand even what the burden of proof situation was. It's a very odd and inverted thing.
It should be.
Can not even go buy your property, just randomly assess a value, and then you have to prove them wrong. How do you prove a negative?
Yeah, no, it should be on them to prove
that's
that
the most alarming thing to me is it's.
Yeah, you should be on them to prove that the valuation is what it's supposed to be. I mean, it should not be on you to be like, look, I purchased it for this much, and now you're saying it's worth twice that much. Prove it to me that all these other properties around here have gone up that much to make it happen. That's horrific. Right. So, hey, I appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much for sounding off this morning. I got 2 more calls on hold. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Mark. I'm down here in Homer.
Good morning, Mark. What's on your mind?
Well, on the senior exemption, my property's worth a little under $300,000, and I did the senior exemption, and I pay 0 on borough taxes, and I pay a total of $82.80 a year on city tax for Homer. So it does save a person a heck of a lot of money.
Well, yeah, but remember, each borough has a different threshold. Each borough has a different threshold for their senior exemption. Some boroughs, I don't know. In fact, I don't even know if every borough has a senior exemption, but each one is a different valuation. Maybe in the Kenai, it's up to $300,000. Up in Fairbanks, as the previous caller just said, I thought it was 120. He said 150. I know it's just over $100,000. It's not a full value of most people's homes. So, I mean, yeah, it can take it down to zero, but like I was talking about my friends who left, their home was valued at almost $300,000, and the mill rate increases were killing them. And that's part of the problem. You never actually own it.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. Right now, I got a good deal. So, I mean, it's, I'm not sure what Kenai is. I'd say it's somewhere around 300,000 on the zero exemption on, owing nothing for the borough. And then the city, you're basically paying for school and roads. So
right.
But it is there, and yes, you don't own your property.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. I got one more call that I'm going to sneak in here before we run out of time for the day. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Laura in Fairbanks.
Hello, Laura. What's on your mind?
Well, since we've been forced in the last few years to fall into everybody's fantasy and agree with how they identify, I believe that we should all just identify as tax exempt.
I'm not.
And everybody's going to have to agree with that because that's what we chose.
I identify as tax-free. That's what I identify as, tax-free.
Right.
I love it. I identify as a sovereign tax nation. My house is a sovereign tax-free nation. That's it. You know what? Maybe, Laura, maybe one day we could get, that's just as nonsensical as everything else. So why not? Thank you for your call, Laura. I really appreciate you calling in.
Well, also,
quickly.
I get that senior discount.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to get that old. And then my first year, my property taxes were just over $600.
Right.
And the second year...
Hold on the line, Laura. Folks, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Sorry about that, Laura, but I had a hard break there that I had to go out. So tell me the story. The first year it was what? Oh, she didn't hold on. She didn't hold on. I wanted to hear that story, quite honestly. Oh, well. Okay, well, my taxes this year will be over $4,000. I'm paying more than what I can rent my house for. Good Lord. All right, well, I think that's it. We got to get out of here. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm missing a lot of comments. I have an exemption and still pay over $5,000, says Sandy. If they raise the value every year, that's what it is. Matsu Borough has got a $200,000 tax exemption. My property in Nikiski went from $85,000 to $45,000 in value over 5 years. Was that the other way around? My unimproved property went from 85 to 145 in 5 years, is what she meant. Oof. Wow. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens more, but I think that you're right. It is madness. It is immoral. Taxation is theft. We'll see you later, my friends. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.